Hello, welcome to Guns and Yellow Ribbons Live. We've been having a little giggle at some old photographs that we've been sharing with each other behind the scenes, which will stay behind the scenes. I'm glad that you're all enjoying lockdown as much as me. I'm like a caged lion right now, but at least I've kept my appearance really well. I've trimmed my my beard up, especially made sure that it looks nice. Dan, I can see that you've looking after your appearance. Trev, well, Lee, how are you? You look like Kojak.
Yeah, joke, isn't it? Like that way. So I thought I want to get like trying to look like Trev, look like a couple of twins, don't we? Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not got a long way to go to get to Trevor's fine physique of a beard. You know what I mean? But like I thought I'd have to come because it's been so long since I've been back on here. I know you lot are bearded men, so I thought I felt left out. So I thought I'd join the clan, like,
We couldn't afford you, Lee. That was the truth of it, honestly.
Well, there you go, like, there you go.
Kev is even cheaper.
Kev.
Right, listen, this is called a ramble because we are literally going to ramble. We've got an idea where we're going with this. It's just going to be fun. It's about half hour, 45 minutes of just a bit of fun to get over when we should be watching football, because it's 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon. Sorry, have you seen Joanne's comment? So
yeah,
Joanne's comment.
Joe, none of that, Joanne.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it, Joanne? He was my favourite on there. Like, you've just lost that.
Joanne says, "Blimey, you look like you've been held hostage for 3 weeks." What I think we're trying to do, what we're trying to demonstrate here, is the various stages of beard growth. Yeah. So obviously you've got how Lee is, which is just hitting the itchy, scratchy phase.
Oh, unbelievable! I don't know how you can.
You've got how I am with a bit of salt and pepper in there. You've obviously got Lee, the Dan with the younger version, and then you got Trev with, like, desert island discs.
Oh, gee.
Hi, Mum's in the chat. Right. Just got to say, like, just to check on my.
Hello, Mrs. Potts.
Yeah, she's in. She's checking on me. It's the only time she's going to see me for a few weeks now, isn't it?
Hello, Potts' mum.
Yeah, hello, Donna.
Mum. Bless her.
We've got quite a few in the chat. We got Carol, we got Joanne, we got Ben, we got Andy Fink, Dave Hurl, Donna, which you just seen, Mark. And, keep your comments dropping in and everything else. What we are going to talk about is, Dan, you can host this topic because I totally cocked it up and confused it, and you'd explain why. We're also going to look at the Wenger statue stand naming.
Too many whiskies, mate. Too many whiskies, mate, again.
I did not to drop before one. I said to you in the chat group. I said to you in the chat group, these long lay-ins and early time starting boozing, lockdown can become such a good thing. So we're going to look at the Wenger statue stand thing. We're going to look at who else we think could and should possibly considered for commemoration outside the Arsenal. We're going to look around other parts of the world and other parts of football about what's happening, obviously with the lockdown and COVID-19. So we won't dwell too much on that because this is here to cheer us up. So I'll ask you guys, first of all, how are you keeping? All been safe? All been well? Lee, start with you. Everything good?
Yeah, all good. The garden's looking immaculate this time of year. I've never done it before this time. So, the highlight of the day now is getting out there at some stage and watering it. That is the highlight of the day. That's how bad this is, So, so I look forward to watering my garden later on. But, getting through it, I think, like everybody is, So, it's, unbelievable, isn't it, really? Like, shopping is an experience now, I tell you, like. But I'm getting through all right, yeah.
And Trev, it seems to be an old man thing. You like doing gardening as well, don't you?
Yeah, we have to. We've been out. We've been out catching up on the garden because obviously we was away for a good while, Fergus. So, but yesterday and today I thought, sod it, I've got thousands of old programs that I've not sorted through or looked at for years. So I've got them. I'm sat in the middle of them now. I've got them piled up all around me, right? And so just been sorting them out, putting them away again. And
you've set up a Twitter account for showing your programs.
Yeah, I thought I'd just make a Twitter page up, stick a couple of programs on every day and old ones. And I've not chosen. I've just put my hand in a box every day and I've pulled one out, and
What's the Twitter handle
people wanna
called,
look at them,
Trev?
you're welcome. I can't remember.
Okay, we'll
hang
get
on, I'll
Arsenal
tell you.
programs in Twitter. I think it's called Trev, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's Matt something or another.
It's at Match Arsenal, capital M, capital A.
Is it? Okay.
At Match Arsenal. It's actually called Arsenal Match Programs. But I just put my hand in a bag and I pull one out every day and see where we go. I've got mainly Arsenal ones here, but
what we got next? Show us what one we got next, then, Trev.
Right, I'll put my hand in here and pull one out. Hang on. Here's one. What's this one here? I don't know what it is. Hang on.
I bet Lee went.
1959-60. The Football League v the Scottish League, right? At Highbury. The Football League v the Scottish League at Highbury. Because they used to play that fixture every year many years ago. And and they had it at Highbury quite a lot because obviously Highbury was the greatest ground in the country and probably still is, even though it's only flats now, boys. So, yeah.
Dan?
I'll stick that one on later.
Dan, despite getting drunken calls from people who host podcasts late at night, what else have you been doing to get through COVID-19?
To be fair, mate, I think I've completed Netflix now. I've completed the Premier League years on Sky Sports. So once I get to the stage of how much more can I watch on TV, I think I'm going to have to go and do what Lee Judges does and sack his gardener and go and do some gardening. That's what I think we need to do. I don't know if I'm more shocked about that, the fact that Lee Judges has no longer got a gardener. What's going on there?
Times are hard. You know that way.
So, Dan, do you want to take this topic away? It was your idea that we discussed last night, and I totally cocked it up. So I'll leave it over to you.
Yeah, no worries. The Premier League Hall of Fame, boys, is been discussed, and we're going to find out very soon who the first two players are going to be. It was going to be towards the middle of March, but because of everything that's happened, it's now been delayed, and I think it's going to be in April. And because people have got time on their hands now, they're then going to explain who the first two players are. So wanted to go round really and just say who we believe the first two players should be, taking our Arsenal caps off. And our football Premier League brains on and say who deserves to be the first two names in the Premier League Hall of Fame. And then Fergus decided that if there was going to be two Arsenal players that were going to be a part of the all-round Premier League Hall of Fame, then which two Arsenal players deserve to be mentioned in that category? So, Ferg, I don't know who you want to ask first or how you want to go around with it, but I think we should all give...
your spot. You run it. You run this bit.
Well, I went for Ryan Giggs and Alan Shearer, and the reason I went for those two is because Ryan Giggs, I think, for me, is the best player the Premier League scene. He's the most decorated player. He's won the most. He's been there for longevity. He stayed at night at Man United at one club, was there for the 90s. And when you say Premier League, everybody thinks of Ryan Giggs. So I think Ryan Giggs there. The other one was Alan Shearer because he scored the most goals in the Premier League. And I think that, Premier League football is all about scoring goals. So I've gone for Alan Shearer. So they're the two that I think will probably deserve it. If I took my Arsenal hat off, they're the two that I'd go for. Trev?
Yeah, well, you see, I agree with you for Shearer, 100%. It should be Shearer. He scored the most goals, as you said, Dan. I can't agree with you, Giggsy, because he scored a good goal against Arsenal, brilliant goal against Arsenal. I'll never forgive him that, so he can do one. Probably Terry Henry. I mean, even with me Arsenal out off, Terry Henry set us alight for years. And so my first two would be Shearer and Terry Henry.
Judges.
I'm sorry I went for an Arsenal player.
No, that's all good.
I'll totally agree with what Trev said. I think that it's got to be Shearer because of top goal scorer.
You got to have a different person. You can't all go for Shearer.
Well, you got what? I've got to change that, have I? Then?
Yeah, pick somebody different. So we're trying to fill a Hall of Fame.
I thought you said the first two that you'd have in the Hall of Fame.
So we was only picking two.
Just,
okay,
I'll tell you what. I've got to say this. Now, while we're on air, like the group when you're discussing what was going to happen today. I got confused after the first sentence. I got to say, like, you know what I mean, so I don't know what's going on here, like, you know. Now, what have I got to choose the two? I've got to choose the two different ones now. Then
Fergus is having too much to drink. Just Lee, if you agree with Trev, things you stick with that, mate. If that's what you think it should be, Shearer and Henry.
I think obviously for Shearer for his goals, Thierry Henry, because as far as I'm concerned, who's the best player that you know, along with Bergkamp, was the best player. You know, it's out of Bergkamp and Henry for the second spot. But
I think in terms of the best players, I think that Alan Shearer wouldn't get in it. But I think that if you're talking about a Hall of Fame in the Premier League, that's why I've gone for Shearer and Giggs, because you've got the player who scored the most and the player who's most decorated in the Premier League. And that's why I think them two will be, it's basically favourites that those two are going to get it. But this is why it's a healthy debate, because they probably weren't the two best players the Premier League scene. So how does it work? Do you know what I mean? If you're talking about a Hall of Fame, is it the best players? Is it the most recognised? Is it the people who won the most? That's the discussion. So two for Shearer's pretty much agreed by all three of us. I've gone for Giggs. Trev and Lee have gone for Thierry Henry. Fergus, who are the two that you're going for?
My two non-Arsenal players, because I'm doing non-Arsenal players first. Slippy G, Stevie G, England captain. I think he's been a fantastic player. And doing okay as a manager at the wrong side. But and the other one is the winker, Ronaldo. You got to think of Ronaldo. If you look at the Hall of Fame of Premier League players, he's got to be one of the best players that's ever appeared non-Arsenal in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. To be fair, Ronaldo was ridiculous and went on to be one of the best in the world, if not the best ever. That's fair enough. If we're talking about Arsenal players, we've already mentioned Thierry Henry, and I'd 100% agree. But if I was to put another one in there, it probably would be Dennis Bergkamp ahead of Vieira, Pires, or all the others, just because I think Dennis Bergkamp was the best player to wear the Arsenal shirt. And I don't really see there's anybody as good as him in the Premier League in terms of his technical ability and his unexpected class. The goals he scored against Newcastle and Leicester, for me, 100%, two of the best goals I've ever seen in the Premier League. Certainly the best Arsenal goal I've ever seen was the Newcastle one, where he's just flipped dab his ass and put it past Shay Given. That, for me, was the best. So I've got to give them two a mention and go that Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp deserve to be in the Hall of Fame as Arsenal players. Trev?
I think I love Dennis Bergkamp, but I think I'd have Vieira in before Dennis, and also even possibly how many seasons did Wrighty play in the Premier League, boys? I was just trying to think about it, work out how many seasons Wrighty played in the Premier League.
I think he had 4 or 5.
Four.
Yeah.
It was 93 to 97, 98 when it's a 4.
Yeah, for pure entertainment value, Wrighty gets in front of Dennis for me just because he made me happy as a fan. And when I look at the Hall of Fame, I want to smile and be happy. And Dennis would make me smile, but Wrighty would make me laugh, properly laugh, you know, because he's brilliant. And Vieira, you all know what I think about Vieira, boys. He's probably my second or third favourite all-time Arsenal player. So Vieira, although Vieira didn't do that many years either in the Premier League, did he? But fantastic. So yeah, probably Bergkamp would come into consideration. Vieira would come in consideration. But if I had to choose, I'd choose Wrighty, I think.
Keith Sargent has put a thought in, and we might do it for another show, has gone through the different positions. And he said got 2 for every position, but he's just done goalkeepers for this one, and he's got Schmeichel and Czech. But Lee, what do you think as your 2 Arsenal players?
I think, you know, it's hard to categorise what you're saying, because like I'm with Trevor again. Like Vieira, to me, is the best midfield player ever to play in the Premier League. Best midfield player. But if you go on to strikers, it's always that little bit more excitement there, isn't there? And you know, as I said, I've got to have Thierry Henry in there, and you know, for me, I agree with what Dan's saying. Dennis Bergkamp is the best player probably that I've ever seen play for Arsenal, and just what he brought to the table, I think he changed it, you know, and that's why I'd go for him there. And if I had to change the Thierry Henry out of it because of for a non-Arsenal player, I'd put Eric Cantona in as my
yes, good choice.
because I just think he changed changed the way football. Well, he changed Manchester United for a start. To change a big club like Manchester United was unbelievable. He won it with Leeds, and then never was the same after he left. And do you know what I always say? I hate Man United with a passion, but I could never hate Eric Cantona. I just liked him, and I think that when you hate a team so much, but you like a player, he must be something special. So King Eric,
I always had respect for Giggs, and I know that people are going to say, "Oh, I hate him," but he still scored one of the best goals I've ever seen against us. Was in Ryan Giggs, and sometimes you just got to take your hat off and say, "Blimey, this guy is something special." And that was the best defence in Europe at the time. I think Giggs has done it every single season from the age of 17 to the age of 41. And I know you boys don't like him, but I think taking the Arsenal hat off.
Is that women he's done?
I don't think there's nothing against. I've got nothing against Ryan Giggs. I think that's a good shout. I just think that there were better players at Man United when he was playing, i.e. Cantona, i.e. Ronaldo
Beckham.
when he was playing. Beckham was up there, like, he was definitely one of, but Roy Keane was a better player than in my opinion, than Giggs. But I think that he's a very, very good player.
What about David Seaman or Loren, as if you're looking at more defensive players rather than the razzle dazzle of midfield and strikers? Loren was an invincible. He didn't put a foot wrong, and David Seaman as well.
Yeah, but I think Henry and Bergkamp get in ahead of them two, though, don't they? If you're going to look at it seriously, I think they're the two that everyone would go for in an Arsenal show. I mean, Vieira's a great shout. Yeah,
especially for how he came to us. Especially how he came to us, and what he did to that lockdown. I think that made it even more.
That's worth a
better than just his football. Yeah,
I think if you talk about who are the best top three Arsenal players, I think if you were to have asked the fans, I think the top three would be Wrighty in third, Bergkamp in second, and Henry in first place. That's the way I think it would be. That's not my order, but I think that would be the order you'd get.
It's funny because it's different between favourite and best, isn't it? Because my favourite.
That's what I said to you. Yeah.
My favourite players would never ever get into the favourite with the top Arsenal 11.
Probably not. No. Well, Ian Wright's my favourite, but I haven't picked him at all yet. But Ian Wright's my favourite player. So
we were going to pull you on that actually.
Yeah, Lee already did. That was because you all misunderstood it. That was why.
Okay, you're trying to blame me then for you not picking your favourite player.
I told you it wasn't about favourite players. You all decided it was for some reason because you're all getting old now. I
misunderstood for some reason. I can't remember why.
You all need help. You all need a hand. It's lucky I'm on, I tell you.
In fairness to Dan, that message Fergus sent out last night, I could have turned it upside down and sideways. And I still wouldn't have it.
Well said. Yeah.
I might just leave that one till the morning.
I'm getting absolutely crucified on here, guys. I'm only trying to provide some content for people to watch. We don't charge anybody, and then you all abuse me. Listen. The next thing on the agenda is Wenger. There's talk about a statue. I've heard it was commissioned last year, and it's what I've actually heard is that it's meant to be unveiled ahead of the season, around the Emirates Cup sort of time, if everything is normal, outside the stadium. But a statue for Wenger, do you think there should be a statue for Wenger? Do you think a stand should be named after him? I've even seen on some chat groups and Facebook pages that people are saying they should rename the stadium the Arsene Wenger Stadium, the Emirates Arsene Wenger Stadium, obviously because we've got a sponsorship deal as well. Trev, I'll go to you first because I know you are the most positive gooner I know.
Well, to be honest, boys, when I think about Wenger, I like to think about his successes, right? And if you take all his successes and the impact he had on English football, I can't argue with a statue going outside the stadium. I can't, lots of fans love him. So, yeah, naming a stand after anybody, not just Wenger, naming a stand after anybody is a no-no with me. I don't like stadiums that name stands, right? We have the East Stand, the West Stand, which are iconic movements over from Highbury. We have the Clock End and the North Bank, which are also iconic movements from Highbury. They stay as they are. We don't have their stains named after anybody. As for the stadium, no, not at all. Just a statue I can get, but the rest, no, stays as it is for me, boys. Stays as it is.
Lee, what's your thoughts on it, on the whole thing?
I can't disagree with Trevor again. I think he's come out with a fantastic point about the stadium.
This is why we don't have you on that much.
He's trying to grow a beard.
You can't have me and Trevor at the same time because it's just like UK gold.
He's trying. He's got the same glasses.
I'm UK +1, and I because I keep repeating what he's saying. But
same glasses as him. He's trying to grow a beard like him. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's such a great point. What Trev's making there for the older hybrid Arsenal supporter. The North Bank, the Clock End, the East and West End are iconic. That's what you grew up as a kid. We've transferred that over to the new stadium. They've took away Highbury and don't start taking away stands. And I think that is a fantastic point that Trev's making there. I do think again that a statue. I've got no problem with that. Like a lot of people have for whatever reason. We've been having arguments in group chats about George Graham and Arsene Wenger over the last few days. Did Arsene Wenger tarnish his reputation in the last 10 years? Yes, he did. I don't think anybody could disagree with that he did. But George Graham certainly did by going to Spurs and managing him and winning a trophy, which now seems to be forgotten because of time. And I still think that it's not the right time to do that for Arsene Wenger because it's still a little bit raw with a lot of people. So I would say, yeah.
When would be a right time then?
Well, that's my point. If you'd have said to when George Graham was managing Tottenham, let's put a statue up of George Graham, everybody would have gone nuts. You know what I mean? But over the course of so much time now, it's diminished, and everybody now forgets about George Graham and managing Tottenham, and they forget about the glory side. And I think that's what will happen with Arsene Wenger over time. I've certainly mellowed towards Arsene Wenger over the last couple of seasons. And sort of more reminisced how good he was, what Trevor's saying, instead of the bad stuff. But if you'd have said to me 2 or 3 years ago, I'd sort of forgot that good stuff and it was tending to go on to the bad stuff. So, and the worst thing about it all is I wouldn't want people to be disrespecting that statue when it's up because people will. You know what I mean? And we've got enough bad things going on at the club now every week. Paint being chucked on it and what else and whatever. So I think they should leave it for a couple more years yet. I think Arsene Wenger, I've got to say this, has been absolutely, gone up in my estimations. He never come back to the club because I think he understands that as well. And I just feel that give it a couple more, 5 more years time, and I think it'd be the dumb thing to do. I honestly do.
Dan, do you think 5 years is enough? Should it be this summer? Should it be 10 years' time? Do we need some of the more bitter people about Wenger, the black scarfs and et cetera, but some of that's about more than Wenger. It's about the club and the regime. But do we need to give it more time? Do we need 5 years, or would you go for it this summer?
I don't think we should be having to wait much longer if they want to do a statue of Arsene Wenger. I think most fans would be willing to accept that. I think Lee brings up a great point. There are going to be those Wenger haters still that are probably going to disrespect the statue, and I'd hate to see that. When you get it, I honestly don't understand if there's any fans, and there has been some over the last few days, and they know who they are, who say they hate Arsene Wenger or the guy is dead to him, then please give your head a wobble and ask yourself if you are a real Arsenal fan. Because what that man's done for us over the last 22 years has given us some unbelievable memories. And he will never, ever be replaced because of what he did to change British football. And I had an argument with Claude last night about the diets he changed. Maybe he wasn't the first manager in the world to change diets, but he certainly was in the Premier League, and he was ahead of every other manager in that league. And that's why Fergie looked behind him and thought, who the hell is this bloke? How am I going to keep up with him? And that for me was perfect. So a statue, absolutely. I totally agree with Trev. I don't think stands should be named. I don't think a stadium should be named. But certainly Arsene Wenger deserves the respect that some fans aren't giving him still. And I wanted him to go. And I was one that said that he should have gone after Hull when Pep Guardiola and Klopp become available. Absolutely, he did stay too long. But it doesn't change the fact that he had 10 wonderful years at the club and won so much with the club. Most successful Arsenal manager, most FA Cups were down to him, an invincible season, a gold Premier League trophy that nobody else will get. So how people can sit there and say that they hate the man and they don't want him to come near the club again, I think disrespectful is an understatement for that. So a statue 100% deserved. If there was to be other people in the mix, then I'd go for a Righty and Rocky statue. I'd love to see that. Absolutely love to. But if it's going to be the next one's Arsene Wenger, then that's great.
The next one they should commission is a Righty Rocky one. You know, that one where they're in the embrace in the yellow shirts, I think. Yes. I can't remember where. It might have been 89. And that would 91, be fantastic.
91, I think, yeah.
Was it 91?
Southampton.
So Lee, if you were to pick, we've mentioned Righty and Rocky to be other people that you would like to see immortalized outside the stadium. And by immortalized, I don't mean a flag or a part of the wraparound of the stadium, although the wraparound I really like. But I'm talking about in pewter or bronze or whatever. Who would you put outside the stadium? Well, we've got loads of space, but you've only got limited space for health and safety and everything else.
Patrick Vieira, captain of the Invincibles. Simple as that. You know what I mean? One of the best ever players to play for Arsenal. Everybody goes on about the Invincibles, but no one really goes on about who was captain of them. And it was him. You know, we've got one of Tony Adams, and rightly so. But for me, Patrick Vieira will be up there because of that gold trophy. The captain of the Invincibles.
Trev?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm just sitting here listening to you boys, and it gets your own mind ticking over, doesn't it? And we're going back to the managers. We've got the Chapman statue. I would love to see, from my lifetime, I would love to see maybe on a smaller scale, a row of 4 of them. I'd like to see Chapman, Bertie Mee, George Graham, and Arsene Wenger alongside each other, maybe sat on a bench talking or something like that. You know, the great managers of Arsenal. That would be lovely for me. I agree with Lee. Here we go, agreeing again. Lee, we've got to stop this, son. People will start talking about it. I agree with Lee about Vieira. There's loads of players that we could say, but we all know my thoughts on Vieira, so I'm right behind Vieira. I just can't get this Wenger thing out of my mind, right? We spoke briefly. I'm going to go back to you. I do apologise, Fergus. Wenger took English football by storm, as Dan rightly said, scared the living daylights out of English football, Ferguson included, because no one saw him coming, no one knew him, and he battered the league for years, right? But he didn't have a plan B. And bear with me a second, because I'll tell you what I'm saying is he didn't have a plan B, and I honestly think that towards the end of his career, he was experimenting a little bit with the Arsenal because he went from having great, big, strong, confident, physical players, and he tried to play a completely different type of football with smaller players. There was one time when we never had a player over 6 foot in the side, you know, and it didn't work. And you can understand people getting frustrated with Wenger. So the reason I've said that is because when it comes to remembering people, the good times last longer than the bad times in a memory. So as Lee rightly said just now, in a few years' time, you won't remember them bad times. All you'll talk about is successes. So, yeah, a Wenger statue. But I'd love to see Bertie Mee and George Graham alongside him. And then, obviously, Vieira, yeah, definitely.
Well, we've already got the Chapman statue, sorry. We've got the Chapman statue over by the clock end. I don't see why you couldn't, but as you say, Wenger, Bertie Mee, and so on along there. The only thing, as Nick Birch says in the chat, that we soon will have more statues than we have fans at Europa League game. So I think that's a good point. Is there anybody else like I put this up on Guns and Yellow Ribbons, and I also put it on Arsenal Fans Forum, and people come up with the names of Pat Rice. You know, there should be some commemoration to the guy. He was at Arsenal through and through. Captain in the 70s. Wasn't he captain in the 70s? but he played for Arsenal in the 70s. He was our part of the backroom staff and everything else. Other people that people mention is virtually a one-club man in David O'Leary, played 722 games for Arsenal over 18 years. Obviously, Roku we've mentioned. And then some people are going back to, Ted Drake, Eddie Hapgood, Cliff Bastian, Alex James. Cliff Bastian, I think, of those four, you could do something for, maybe name an entrance or something like that. But Chippy Brady, Liam Brady, should he not have
we got to be
commemoration?
We got to be a bit careful here, though, haven't we? We don't want 50 statues, do we? For me, a statue is an absolute legend that no one else can be. Do you know what I mean? There's more that we can do, 100%. But as far as I'm concerned, there only needs to be probably 2 or 3 more statues in total, not 2 or 3 more people. And then we have another 2 or 3, and then another 2 or 3. And then the whole way around the whole stadium, there's about 25 statues. I think we've got to be careful about this. And for me, I totally understand why Bergkamp and Henry were. I totally understand why Herbert Chapman's there, Tony Adams, and like Trev and Lee have said, or should we call them Tree now? We can call them Tree, Trev and Lee. Like Tree have said.
1, 2, 3.
Patrick Vieira, 100%, and Arsene Wenger. But when you start going down the roads of, like, Michael Thomas and all this, and Pat Rice, I think, where does it stop? So for me, I'm only going for those. I think once Vieira, because I think Vieira deserves one. Rocky and Righty, I think, nice for the sentimental one because they're both legends at the club, and Arsene Wenger are done. I don't think, for me, there should be many more. But that's just my opinion.
I think also they've got. Sorry, Loves. They've got like a lot of the Liam Brady's got a big picture of him up on the Emirates. Do you know what I mean? So I think like that's something that was quite clever. And a few of the players have got that. I think Charlie George, and you've got the big one with them all with the back. So I think that's a iconic thing to have as well than having statues. But my argument is why has Thierry Henry got one? Because he's the top goal scorer. Probably that's what people will come back with. Why has Dennis Bergkamp got it? You know what I mean? You can go into sort of arguments of it all, like, and you look at it like, and for me, Patrick Vieira, you could, like Liam Brady, like Trevor will tell you this, you know what I mean? He's probably one of the best players ever to play in an Arsenal shirt, and you just, if you ever get a chance, go back and look at the old games in the 70s and all that. He was doing it on pitches or minefields. And so it's very, very hard. And I also feel that if you're going to do one of Arsene Wenger, George Graham, he when I first started watching Arsenal in the 70s, I never ever thought Arsenal would win a title. I never went over there thinking Arsenal were ever going to win the league. There was never ever 4th or 5th. There was teams, the great Liverpool team, Notts Forest come along, Aston Villa, Aston Villa would have team that I see win the league at Highbury, you know what I mean? I never thought I'd ever see Arsenal do it. And then George Graham come along and changed all that. So I don't think he should be written out of it just because of what, his achievements were fundamentally as good as Wenger's, and people have got to realise that there was an Arsenal Football Club before the Premier League.
Absolutely right, Lee. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's and it is all about eras, Lee. It's all youngsters like our Dan. They're not gonna want statues of the older players as much as they want them from their era. Just going back to the 70s. If we've mentioned Pat Rice, we mentioned Frank McClintock, who was a double winning captain. But if you're going to have any player from the 60s, the 70s. The player that gave his life to the club and actually, unfortunately, God bless him, passed away on the training ground was George Armstrong, right? Yeah. George Armstrong came to Arsenal in the 60s. I can't remember, about 63, 64 from up north, right? As a young lad and never left the club. He was player and he kept getting dropped and he never kicked off about it. He kept getting back in the side. And then he was a coach, and then he was like a mentor and the most popular man on the training ground. And I've never seen it. I'd love to see it one day. There's a memorial to George Armstrong at London Colney now because that's where the poor man unfortunately passed away. But if anyone from the 70s deserves something, then it would be George Graham. And don't forget, Charlie George has got his statue in the museum. He's got a full-size statue of him laid on his back celebrating that goal in the 71 final in the museum. So, yeah.
He does. He does. He does.
My dad, by the way, says that George Armstrong was one of the best players he's ever seen. He said, like,
he's in my top 11. He's in my top 11 league.
Yeah, so
for me, he gets it in front of Perez for me, mate. I know that's a massive statement, but you people that have never seen George Armstrong play wouldn't understand just how good that boy was.
Yeah, so my dad says the same, you know what I mean? So he said, when I spoke to him about my top 11, he said, well, I'd have to have George Armstrong would have to get in it. Now, for me, he was just a little bit before my time. Do you know what I mean? But I've seen clips of him as I've seen them all, you know, and you don't really, like, we sort of overlooked that, didn't we? Like, John Radford was a great centre forward, you know what I mean? Frank Stapleton was a great centre forward for a few years. These guys, you know, would, when you talk about, they're going on about Aubameyang and Lacazette and all that, like, and I'm looking at these players and you're thinking, like, my God, you know what I mean? If you think these are good, we had some fantastic footballers back in the 70s and 80s as well, you know, so, and they shouldn't be overlooked. And that's where, you know, and I get what Dan said. Dan's not seen these players, you know what I mean? And to realise how good they were. And they were iconic players as well, Trev, you know, and I think that's like, I think the last sort of iconic player I think that we had was Ian Wright. If that's
well, this is the thing. And last night, Lee, when we did the thing with Claude last night, you know, Claude kept going, I can't believe you're not picking them. I can't pick them. They weren't in my era. I couldn't pick David O'Leary because I never saw him. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he was better than Sol Campbell. I don't know. But maybe George Armstrong was better than Perez. Maybe Liam Brady was better than Vieira. I don't know. I've not seen him, so I can't go. I can only go on what I go. You know what I mean?
Dan, that's the great thing about debate, mate. That we could talk about the eras. But if the truth be known, we'll never, ever know who was the best. We just love reminiscing about it. And, you know, we talk about it. Yeah, absolutely. But Armstrong was better than Perez, by the way.
Probably
well, I would have loved to have seen him playing because I love Perez.
Probably tomorrow to try and help people get through further lockdown. We've already recorded Trevor's 1 to 11, which he's given one of them away in Armstrong. He done a heart and head.
Sorry.
11.
That was good though. It was good.
He mentioned nearly every player that's ever worn an Arsenal shirt in it, but he does finally pick 11 players and a manager. That will be going up on YouTube and on Facebook and every other platform that we've got in the next probably 24 hours or so after tomorrow I think. So Lee,
watch it, Lee. You'll love it, Lee.
11?
Yeah, I've done my one. I've done my one. Obviously, forgetful.
Yeah, that's on. Yeah, very. That's on. That's on audio. So we done your 1 to 11, I think, on audio, and we done a Gooner to Gooner as well. We are going to reach out to some of the other podcasts and some of the other people that do this sort of stuff and see if they can get their 1 to 11. I'm also looking into seeing if we can do something with these people in the chat, see if we can use, I don't know, a house party or whatever, and try and get a few of us together and have a bit of a chat. I don't know. That's very blue sky and out there. Suppose bringing this to a little bit of a close, looking around the world at what's happening with COVID-19 and so on, Manchester City Stadium has been handed over to the NHS, and other clubs are offering staff and facilities, which I think is really good by the Premier League. Aaron Ramsey, I don't know if people saw that Aaron Ramsey made a large donation to his local Welsh NHS where he came from. And in Italy, there's no wages for 4 months for some of these players. So Aaron is not going to be getting his 400 grand a week that people talk about. But it doesn't matter. He's doing the right thing and he's trying to look out for his local people. And the last one on there is West Ham have now 8 infected players. Did they catch it from the Arsenal? Dan?
Yeah, I think there's a link there. They were talking about Moisey not feeling very well. Arteta had it. Some of the West Ham players apparently early on had it as well. And they would talk about Arsenal under 23s having it. Listen, if that is true and 8 West Ham players have got it, this season done. Season's cancelled, null and void. But that's another debate.
To be honest, what's your 1 2 sentence thoughts?
I mean, Kevin Campbell brought up a brilliant point, didn't he, the other night, which no one's thought of yet. And it's so true if you think about it. If we can't complete the season by the 30th of June, cancel the season. Why? Because players' contracts run out on the 1st of July. So Chelsea will lose Willian and Pedro and have to carry on the season without them. Can't do it. So it has to be, if you can't finish the season by the 30th of June, cancel the season and it's null and void. It's a great point.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. Yeah. If you're out of contract and you've already been, I don't know how to phrase it, tapped up, or you already know where you're going next year and you've got a £200,000 a week contract lined up for next year, you ain't going to play beyond this contract and risk it, are you? Kevin was exactly right. Yeah. Kevin knows he didn't make a point. He made a fact, So I think the season's done. I think it's null and void. I do feel slightly sorry for Liverpool, but we don't show it. We rip Liverpool to pieces for a few weeks and give them an hard time about it. And then hopefully we kick off next season. Hopefully, boys. It's horrible.
Lee, that was amazing. You didn't even move your lips.
Did you say Lee, did you? Sorry, mate.
Yeah. Lee, what's your thoughts? Let's see if you can work around the other way.
Trev, what do you think?
I think it's fantastic. Obviously Kevin knows about contracts and things like that and all that. Surely, if they can be extended by 2 weeks or whatever, and when it comes to contracts now, Aaron Ramsey, as far as I'm concerned, turned that myth around last year. About that. He was going to go and sign a 400 a week. 400 grand a month contract. A week, sorry. 400 grand a week. That's unbelievable, isn't it? But he's still putting his body on the line week in, week out for the Arsenal. So I think that things can be done. I just think that if they cancel the season, it's just a mockery. That means then that the Champions League, what's going to happen with that? The teams that were in it last season have got to go in it again. What gives them the right? What gives the right for Spurs to be in it next season over Leicester? And the relegation and promotion. What they'll have to do, and we've spoke about this on many occasions now, is that next season, carry on the season to whenever it finishes. Next season, if you have to have no international friendlies, that gives us 6 weeks to catch up on things. European games next season, let them be 1 legs instead of 2s. No group stages, a complete knockout. That'll give things all there. League Cup, just one leg to start off with, a complete straight knockout. Same with the FA Cup. I just think that, and the other thing is, boys, so if they're going to say none and void, does that mean we get our money back? Because basically they're saying, well, hold on a minute, Pierre Van Hooydonk, Aubameyang's got 20 goals this season, yeah? They're going to expunge them straight off, so if they don't exist. Well, I've gone up to Newcastle and seen that goal. So do I get my money back? No, I just don't see it being right. I just think that for me, they've got to complete the season. And for the league or the FA to just say, right, how easy was it to just get rid of non-league and grassroots football? Just that's done. Well, if they think that's so easy, why haven't they done it with the Premier League? Because it's all about cash, all about money, and they know if they don't do it, there's going to be people.
I think the reason behind that, Lee, is the Premier League make the decisions about the Premier League and the EFL make the decision about the other 72, where the FA made the decision about the non-league football. And the overall body that's in charge is the Premier League.
But what's going to happen, Fergus, is do you think that Leicester are going to say, all right, that's okay, we're not going to go in the Champions League then, when they're virtually guaranteed of a Champions League spot? We'll let Spurs go back in it this season. They're not going to do that. They're going to be legally battles and things like that. That's why they're keeping this Premier League. They'll keep it going for as long as they can because of the financial gain of it all. It's easy to say to the non-league clubs, oh, don't worry about it because it's not a financial. But someone like Leeds,
it's finance. Yeah, I get that.
You can't say to Leeds, "I'll start again next season." It's wrong.
Would you be happy then if they start back and they do only behind closed doors and they do a game on a Saturday and a Wednesday, or Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, and they just bunch the games up rather than training? They're just playing.
That's a difficult one.
Lee, you're right, mate. Sorry, carry on, mate. I just wanted to give back. I hadn't thought about how we could shorten the season. I hadn't thought about it at length. But everything you just said about one-legged games, knockouts, and no replays, definitely no replays in any rounds. You can knock the season basically in half, can you? And don't forget, a few years ago, boys, they used to play 3 or 4 games a week, without complaining. Maybe they've just got to do that for a season and catch up. Yeah, you're right, mate.
Why ruin this season when you haven't even started this season? Your next season, you can. There's so many things you can. We have for instance, in the season starts right, and then in September we have a 2-week break for the internationals, right? 2-week break for the internationals, 2-week break for the internationals, right? There ain't no qualifying next season because obviously they've got to go for the Euros next season. So those games can be freed up. Those weeks can be freed up. You've got the World Cup in January, right? So you just then so they can come back and the season can go on a little bit later the following season where it don't have to finish in May. It can finish in June. There's so many things that they can do, and I think that they will do. Kevin's got a great point about the contracts. I go along with that, but I don't think it'd be behind closed doors. Well, once they get the green light for everybody to go back to normal, everything's got to go.
But when, honestly,
well, we don't know that. I don't even know when I'm going to go back to work.
November, November, we'll be able to go to games again, and that's I think
that's the case.
He ain't gonna.
The thing is, Dan, if you're saying if they say in 6 weeks' time you can go back to work, right? Well, if you're going back to work as a normal person, why can't football be back to normal? You know what I mean? And that's my point. If everybody goes back normal, so as soon as you go back,
I don't think it will be 6 weeks, though, Lee. That's what I'm saying.
No, whenever it is, Dan. Yeah. Whenever it is, But one day, I think we're going to go back to normal, won't we?
Yeah, we have to. We have to go back to normal. We need to go back out and mix. People need to get infected with this virus. There'll be a second wave. They may have to shut down briefly again. I've talked to you a few times about this, Dan. And I think they will have to get us interacting with people again. 1, for our sanity, and 2, for just the way that these viruses actually work out. Nick Birch said in the comments, playing games behind closed doors would be unfair on teams who've already played their away games with home fans in attendance. Dan?
If we're going to have to start finishing the season behind closed doors, can we just finish the season, please, and just start again when we're allowed to go to games? Bloody behind closed doors.
Say that to West Ham, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Leicester, as you said, Sheffield United. Say that to all the teams that are fighting for either relegation, Champions League, European football.
So, won't it? Sheffield United, be absolute farce, won't it?
With Sheffield United, when's the last time they played in Europe?
Well, I don't know if they ever have, to be fair. It must have been years and years and years. But what I'm getting at is, if there's football with no fans, then it ain't football. So if you want to carry on going beyond closed doors, that's fine. And you can have the opinion of that would be brilliant. We get it done. I personally don't think that is the way forward. Cancel the season, wait till everyone can go again, and then we start a new season. And Liverpool probably walk it again. Yeah, that's fine. But at the moment, we can't just keep going. If I'm right and we go in October and we start going to football again, right, we'll be starting the new season in bloody a year from now, in March again.
Yeah, but my argument with that is
crazy, isn't it?
There's other teams. In fact, it's not just about Liverpool. This ain't. I look at it now. Listen, if the season finishes for Arsenal, for us, it ain't that big a deal. Right,
selfish point of view, mate. I wouldn't care.
You've got Spurs fans that are saying, "Yeah, it's got to be knocked off now," right? Because this is. I'm just picking them out as an example because I don't like them, right? But they're dropping like a stone before this happened, right? But they're all saying now, because I've got it on group chats with the Spurs players, let's finish the season. Why are they saying it? Because it suits them, because they go back into the Champions League. Yeah, so it suits. Yeah, so where for us it doesn't matter either way, but there are other teams where let's put ourselves into Liverpool's shoes. If this was the Arsenal, we'd be pleading for the season to carry on. But
I want the season. I want it to carry on, Lee. I'm not saying I don't want it to.
Yeah, but you're saying but you wouldn't want you would never. But
I don't want it to be behind closed doors.
Arsenal,
I think it's stupid.
Winning the league like they did in '91 or in 2002, and they said, right, we're we're not having it on now, we would be going absolutely nuts. You know what I mean? You've got to think of
we
the
would.
love of football. And I think for the love of football, it's got to continue. It's got to. And it's got to finish. And I don't care about 21-22 season because it's not started. So even if it comes down to it and we're in October, November of next year, why start a new season? Carry on with the season that's gone, and then you finish it. And
what happens if it runs into 21, Lee?
It's an interesting point, boys. It's an interesting point, boys, isn't it? Because I don't think that the FA, the Premier League, whoever will have made a decision on exactly where they're going to go yet. Because, like us, nobody knows when we're going to be back watching football, when we're going to be back playing football. You know, if we're back watching in, I don't know, in 6 or 8 weeks' time, then we can complete this season. We can do that. If it goes on, and it's interesting what Lee says, if it goes on and we get to the end of this year, we could even go into early next year, and we're still struggling with these things, and we're not back playing till then. Do we still complete this season, Lee? Is that what you're saying, mate?
Yeah, because next season don't matter, does it? Why give away this season for next season when you all start again? You might as well just finish. Say, for instance, it doesn't come back till November. Then just complete this season November to May. Why start a new season? And it's going to be disrupted anyway. You know what I mean? Because you ain't going to be able to finish it.
Because we've been crap this season, and I want this season gone.
Unfortunately, that's the case. You know what I mean? But you've got Arsenal fans at this moment in time. You've got Arsenal fans at this moment in time going, "Oh, let's finish the season now because we're 5th last season with Manchester City's expulsion. We might get in the Champions League." Is that how you want to go about doing things? Not for me. Not for me. I think the season is important.
I think it's the easiest chance we've got to get in the Champions League. But I know what you mean.
Well, but it's not right, is it?
I've spoken to Liverpool fans, and they've said to me that their reply. I've spoken to about 3 or 4 of them just today because I've been keeping in touch with everyone, right? And they've all said, every single one of them have said, "Season's over," crying face. They all have said it. Yeah, done. Season's over, crying face. Go on to the next one.
Well,
because they think it is done. They think it's done.
In fairness to the couple of Liverpool fans I know, right, I've been talking to, and in fairness to them, they have said that they'll be absolutely devastated if the season was called off. They've never felt pain like it, but people have to come first. If it's for the best of the nation that the season is called off, then they'll accept that. But Lee's right in what he says. Can we start another season till we've completed the one before? And I'd not looked at it from that perspective that at this stage, next season don't matter, does it? It don't matter if you don't start till next season for a year. Because this season is the one that's ongoing. This is the one that's got all the stuff pending. So yeah, I sort of get what Lee's saying. I can see both sides actually, if I'm honest.
I suppose the question that Lee poses by saying that we need to finish off this season before we start another one is it's always going to be unfinished business, and people will go, "Well, you shouldn't have been there in the first place." And you go back to the Arsenal-Tottenham rivalry. It's over 100 years ago that we were chosen to stay in the top flight and Tottenham were dropped down, and there's been hatred ever since. You know, so would that happen across 20?
Can you imagine Liverpool lifting the trophy with no one there in the stadium? What a joke that'd be!
Hilarious.
But there we go.
Listen, I wouldn't
want that as an Arsenal fan. I wouldn't want that as an Arsenal fan. Can't even go and see your team lift a trophy. Crazy, isn't it? Sorry, Lee.
I was shopping in Tesco's yesterday. I see one of my Spurs mates, and he turned around and said, "At least we come above you this season." I ain't having it. I'm not having it. They did not come above us. You know what I mean? They're dropping like a stone. I want this season finished. You know what I mean? So, you know, they're claiming victory already.
They will have Kane and Song back, though.
Yeah,
they were going to be all right. They were going to be back anyway. Harry Kane's always back for the North London derby, isn't he? Oh, he's out for the season, and then he rocks up at the bloody North London derby.
That's a great thing. I haven't been to their stadium yet. So it's another year it'll be without going there. I've not been there.
There we go.
Yeah, I was only thinking that the other day. I was looking forward to going there, and
I didn't have a ticket, so there we go.
Well, I had put some feelers out to try and get me and Dan a ticket, and the person who was going to sort it out for me was reasonably confident. So I was hoping to go to my first North London derby away game.
So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And don't take a tin of beer. Oh, my phone's going to ring. Right, that seems like a perfect time for
There's
us
the
to
bell.
call it
There's
a
the
day.
bell.
There's the bell. I'm not nicking his. I'm getting a Twitter row if we nick other people's ideas. We don't want to do that, do we? So,
Oh, steady, Fergus. Leave it.
Dan, yes, Trev, you're right. Step away from the edge. I should step away from the edge. Trev, thanks very much for joining us today. As always, the beard looks fantastic. Lee, you look a disgrace. But thank you for joining. He's even looking up at you. Look.
Yeah, I'm in isolation. I can't help it. Like,
Listen, if you've enjoyed this hour, it's gone on a little bit longer than it should have. We will try and do more. I'll do one on Wednesday night. We'll do something. We'll be sending out Trevor's 1 to 11 that we pre-recorded. I'm going to try and do a couple more. My work, actually, funny enough, next week is ramping up, so I'm actually going to be quite busy work-wise. And I've joined a local COVID-19 sort of community action group in my local area. So any spare time I've got, I'm going to be trying to do something to try and help out vulnerable and elderly people in the area if I can. And if you can do in your community, join them. Well, I had a leaflet come through my door, contact the guy on text, and the rest is history. So I'm going to try and do my bit there. But Dan, you're doing something at 4:00 this afternoon. Do you want to tell people what it is and where they can find it?
Oh, cheers, Ferg. Yeah, in an hour's time, guys, 4:00, I'm going to be doing a Pots preview reunion on the same old Arsenal. So if you haven't gone over there, then please do so. You'll see us in an hour's time live on YouTube. And I've got a Sheffield United fan, a Man United fan, a Man City fan, and an Everton fan joining me just to talk about their season, what they think should happen, and just have a little bit of a debate about where we think things should go. So please come over there at 4:00 and join me live. Cheers for that, folks.
No worries, mate. Thank you, everybody who's in the chat. We got Jeff, Paul, Mike Feinberg, who's had a lot to say. There's been Andy Fink. Lots of you in the chat there. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you for watching. This is an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. If you like what we do, if you're on YouTube, click the like. It helps. Click the bell, and you'll get a reminder. If you're on Facebook, like and follow the Facebook page. And we're also on Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. Thanks very much. Only one last thing to say. Up the arse.
Up the arse.
come on, you Gunners.
Is it going to end? Is it?
Up the Arsenal.